What is an eponym? A person after whom a discovery, invention, or place is named or thought to be named. There are very few eponyms in the hunting industry. A product so popular and so functional, it becomes the act of the product. So how does something become an eponym? It's the best, hands down.
If you're somebody that's been following the Exodus brand over the last 7 years, that have been hung up on trying one of our reliable, dependable, and borderline bulletproof trail cameras, we got a special campaign just for you. Starting right now, you can trade in any working or non-working camera and save $75 off an Exodus render. If you're not familiar with the Exodus Advantage, let me just tell you these 3 things. 5-year, no BS warranty, 5-year theft and damage coverage, and best-in-class customer service.
Now's the time to trade up and experience the Exodus render. Do yourself a favor and click the link for all the details on how to claim these savings.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show number 4 of our live podcast, Dan.
Hey. Hey everybody.
If you guys if you haven't been on here before, chats are in the right side of your screen over there, or at least they're in my right side. I think they're in your right side also. So post your comments there, and we'll get to a Q&A segment at the end of the show, which will probably take up most of our show, but ask your questions. Got a good guest today, Jason Samkowiak from the Traditional Bowhunting and Wilderness podcast. But first, how's it going, Dan?
I'm good. I'm alive.
I got a new internet provider, and a lot of people were complaining that I was fuzzy on my camera was fuzzy, and it's because I had to have my resolution on my camera way down so the internet would not be all clunky. But I got a new provider, so I'm good now. Nice and clear.
Fuzzy, so
you look better fuzzy.
I look better fuzzy. So can I get some of that low resolution? No.
If you've never seen Dan in person, if you've never seen Dan in person, that's how he looks, is fuzzy. So, did you do any scouting this weekend or anything?
No, I put in a stairs to my downstairs basement. I just kind of had a hole.
Yeah.
So I put in a stairway, and actually I heard my friend Eric Jeske. He's probably watching right now. He raced home to get home in time to watch, but I had him come over. He's a contractor. Anybody needs any help, Eric Jeske. He's a good guy.
I see him on here. He is here.
Yeah, he's a hell of a guy. You got to do some hunting with him.
Yep.
He comes up and he gun hunts with me, but we want to plan a bow hunt or something. Get him on one of the group hunts. He's a good guy.
Yeah, for sure. So, no scouting at all this weekend. You haven't been able to scout very much this year, have you? Not for yourself.
No, it's driving me nuts. It's driving me nuts. So I gotta get up and scout for bears because I'm going to a new area this year. Mm-hmm. I want to tackle central Wisconsin and hunt with a friend of mine up there. And he's going to bait, but I got to get up there and scout a little bit. He's around the Mead Wildlife area. Might try up there. That should be fun. I don't know what to expect out of it. We'll see. New area. I got to do some cyber scouting, and I got to get up there and put some boots on the ground. I also really need to get down to Iowa and look around a little bit where I'm going to hunt down there. I have not yet. I haven't even looked at a map yet. and I'm going to a new area in Iowa. So, yeah, I'm a little stressing over it. I haven't looked at as much stuff around here as I'd like to. I keep helping other people rather than myself. I got to get a little more selfish, I guess.
I mean, you've been around where you live for a long time now, obviously, like your whole life. I mean, do you still have a lot of ground that you haven't touched as far as
Not much.
Oh, sorry
Not
about
much.
that, everybody. Hit my mic.
There's some old stuff I'd like to look at. Just some stuff
Right.
I'd to check and see if it's been used in the last couple of years, revisit it. Things change. If you haven't been on a property in 10 years, things can really change. So yeah, I need to get out and look at some stuff.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose Dave's farm this year. So
yeah, you essentially have no
selling it off. I was hoping to maybe buy it. It would have been really, really tight, but I could have did it if I fixed the house up, rented the house, and rented out the farmland. Then I could have made payments. But they wanted to break it up, and they wanted to give a neighbor who was helping his mom out the major portion, which the farm fields. And I think we just thought that I would just want the hunting land in the back, which is only 20 acres, and it was landlocked. And I said, well, maybe I'd do it if I had an access and I got the farm or the building. And they said, well, we already sold that to an electrician, so I guess I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to get into something you don't want, I mean.
Yeah, I wanted it more for, it's not really even the best hunting property, but it's more just the memories there. I wanted to keep it.
Yeah, sentimental value to you. So that, I mean, you'll essentially not have any private at all then, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that was all I had.
Yeah. Oh well. I always think about like, hey, what would happen if I lost my private farm and this and that? And I'm like, I honestly rarely shoot one there. I usually shoot it either on some little dinky 10 acres I can hunt or on public. And I mean, I've only killed a few deer there over the years.
I like having a place, a private place to manage and play with, and where you can trust trail cameras and stuff like that. But I could never just hunt there. It would, even Dave's, I only hunted a few times a year, but I loved it. I hunted there like 5 or 10 times a year.
Right.
That was it. Because we kept it pristine,
Yeah. I only hunt mine. Honestly, it depends on the deer there. If I feel like I'm on one, I mean, I hunted like 4 hunts in a row there that one time, but I was on this buck, and I was chasing him down, and I saw him every hunt, then shot at him the last hunt. But yeah, I always worry about that because you never know, farmers have grandkids that grow up or whatever, and you never know what they're going to be into, but it is what it is. If you don't own it, you don't have much control over it. Yeah. Anything else going on?
Not a whole lot.
When's turkey season start for you guys?
For me, it starts in May. I mean, my season's real late.
Oh, you drew the whatever week, a later week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I bought some extra tags too, but they're all late. So it's hard around here late. I think I'll still have Dave's farm for turkey season. I haven't heard anything different, so I'm planning on hunting over there a little bit. And that helps because I usually do really good the first couple of weeks on the public, but it's so overpressured around here for turkeys that later on Dave's farm picks up. But usually, I stayed out of Dave's too because I let Dave, because he had cancer and stuff for quite a while here, hunt it,
yeah.
It'll be just me, so I can decide if I if I want to go in alone or if I want to take Rick or what I want to do and get our last hunts in there. I know there's a couple of big toms running around over there, so
yeah, that's one thing I don't have on my private farm is turkeys. We have the there's a large CRP field there and not any hardwoods at all. I mean, no woods, nothing. I mean, you'll have a straggler going through there, just whatever. But I pretty much hunt solely on public land for turkeys. But
one of the guys on the Beast sent me a PM about 10 minutes ago that I found kind of interesting. He sent me a picture. It's a guy named James O'Hearn. He's from Michigan. I met him when I did that meet and greet out in Michigan. He supplied food for us. Really good guy. He sent me a picture that he just got on his cell cam of a buck that's already got fairly well decent developing antlers.
Really?
Doesn't that seem a little early?
How developed? I mean, how big are they?
It looked in the picture. Now I'm going from memory, but it looked like they're starting to come up about maybe 2 inches.
I don't think that's out of the question. I think they could be that far along already.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah,
I mean, because just like last week, I had friends sending me pictures of bucks still holding.
Yeah. No, you're right. I have a buddy, Zank, the one that was on last week. He that hopped on for a question. He sent a picture of a small one holding. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be a giant or something. Who knows?
That's kind of how it was with the bear bait buck. That was like I think it was the beginning of June, like the first week of June, and the kid that we were baiting with says to me, "This giant buck crossed the road." I'm like, "Giant buck? They don't even have antlers. They got these little knobs." Not this one, had Coke cans coming out. And sure enough, we got a picture of it at the bear bait, and it did. So
yeah, it's a big one. I saw a big one during turkey season here, opening weekend, which is like it's usually whatever next was it 2 weeks from? No, less than 2 weeks now. It opens on a Wednesday. I saw a pretty nice one last year during turkey set up in the morning for opening day of turkey, and there was a nice one that walked by. He was however tall. He was pretty tall out of his head already. So that may be exaggeration.
So 2 inches is probably not unheard of,
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm
usually not watching them too close this time of the year.
Yeah, there's not much to look at right now.
Yeah.
And I think, and I don't know not that I'm the wrong person to ask about the science of all of it, but it seems like the big ones oftentimes shed a little earlier. Maybe I don't know if they get a jump start on the little ones, and maybe they're just, obviously they got to grow more than
what I understand it's stress related. So, the breeders will drop fast. The ones that are doing the heavier breeding, which is probably more the 2 or 3 year olds.
Well, I mean, if you think about
the injury or,
deer are not far off from how humans are. I mean, the young ones typically, they're not stressed because they don't know any better most of the time, whereas an old deer probably is constantly stressed in his life, just from experiences of negative experiences all throughout his day. Every day he walks around, whether it be coyotes that he knows are danger, or people, or whatever else, disease and everything else. So whereas a buck or a small yearling or something, they don't, whatever, they're not much stress to them.
An interesting fact, I had a couple different deer breeders tell me that they logged when their deer dropped their antlers, and that deer individually dropped their antlers pretty close to the same date if it was stress-free.
Yeah.
Every year. So you'll have one buck that drops right around January 12th. 1 year it's the 11th, 1 year it's the 12th, then it's the 13th, then it's the 11th, then it's the 12th. But like right within a 48-hour period, they were telling me it was pretty accurate, unless there was a stress in that deer, like it had an injury or something.
Yeah.
Then it would change things. But then they'd have a different one that was 2 months later, when it would drop right to the date, and they live in the same pen, eat the same food, same age. So there's probably a lot more to it than what, what we all think,
There's probably just a ton of factors, I'd say,
Yeah.
I don't know. I picked up a nice shed this year around Christmas. I mean, that was pretty early. I know you said you picked up some in November, haven't you?
Yeah, we've had deer shed in gun season here, which is Thanksgiving week. Dave shot one time, and I missed it, and it got away, and then we got in its tracks in fresh snow, and Dave ended up he was the tracker, and then we circled around it, and he went and tried to kill it, and if he was going to jump it was going to run to one of us, and he ended up shooting it in its bed, and we got over there and we're like, hold it up for pictures, and he grabs one antler and it pops off in his hand when he goes to pick the head up, and when he got like half off the ground picking it up when the antler popped off in his hand. When the head hit the ground, the other one popped off. Had to be right ready to shed.
Yeah.
And that was gun season in third week of November.
Man, that's crazy.
I've seen him. I've seen another one do the exact same thing in early December in muzzleloader season.
Yeah, that shed I found it was around Christmas time. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was chewed on a little bit. It'd been laying there for just a little bit. I mean, it's definitely from this year though. It wasn't a year old, but there'd been fresh mice or whatever squirrels chewing on it. The only reason I know it was this year is I had pictures of that deer, whatever, throughout the year on trail camera. But someone asked if you're in a ground blind. You do look like you're in a ground blind a little bit.
I am. I'm in a hole.
Oh man,
I'm hiding from society. You're pulling me out. I'm just my face out.
I think your setup fits you well.
Yeah.
I got to say, guys, before we get Jason on here, don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe. And someone asked about questions. Yeah, we're going to do questions tonight. Jacob is not on. My wife is monitoring the chats, and she's going to shoot me the questions whenever they come in. So I'm not filtering through all your guys' BS sessions on the chats, which I love. I get distracted sometimes. I actually got some negative feedback last week because they said I was looking at the chats too much and not paying attention to the guests because you guys are cracking me up. But that's all right. Just keep them coming. I think they're funny. And we get a bunch of chats too. I mean, there's usually, I don't know how many there actually are, but 100 or more usually. So that's kind of cool. All right. I got something real corny to do because I use this. If you guys see in the top right corner, there's this company called StreamYard that's like a program that runs these chats for you. And they advertise that you can like put in little segments and whatnot, and you can if you give them $200. So once you guys start seeing real cool stuff on here, you'll know I've made it. But right now we're gonna try to make this into into more of a show format instead of just a talking format per se. So like I'm gonna try to make segments where we have, hey, here's our me and Dan BS, and here's our guest. Next segment would be a Q&A or whatever news segment. So right now we're gonna hop in with Jason. There he is. How's it going, guys, Jason?
How are you doing?
Good. If you guys have noticed, Jason's heading down the road right now. That's why I called this podcast Heading South with Jason Samkowiak.
Yep.
Jason, for people that don't know you, can you give us a rundown of what you do and why we had you on, I guess?
I am the only person that's a better deer hunter than Dan is.
Yeah.
But I have a traditional bow hunting and wilderness podcast and a YouTube channel, and like you guys do, I devote as much time as I can trying to help people get better at being in the woods and filling their freezer and that kind of stuff. And it's I've been doing it now for about since 2011, I think, so a little over 10 years, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It's neat to help people, and so it turned into a channel and a podcast and that kind of stuff, and here we are, and that's it. I just I love hunting, and with my jobs, kind of thing, I do get to hunt a lot of time. I take all of November off and hunt exclusively in November, or pretty much a whole month of November, and then a lot in December and that kind of. So I get to spend a lot of time in the woods, and I really enjoy it, and hope to share all that info with anybody who needs it.
Yeah, and I remember you, Jason. You probably had, I don't know how many followers you had, maybe 10,000, maybe less when I started. Found you somehow, whatever, probably searching for some piece of a gear or something. And now you're reaching whatever 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. I looked there earlier. I was like, man, he's really, really growing. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yep. It's going good. I definitely enjoy it.
Yeah. You put a lot of good info for folks out there, especially, even, really unique topics for hunting, whether it be like hunting vehicles or, hunting bicycles, or I mean, you do all kinds of cool stuff that you wouldn't think about. So, yeah, and you give people like affordable options is what I like about it.
Yeah,
for
I don't
things.
make a lot of money, so I do, in order to take that kind of time off and hunt, it's all got to be DIY, and it's all public land, and it's all affordable kind of, affordable stuff that I can do. And I like it. And I also do a lot of videos on weird stuff too. Like you said, I'll do videos on a chainsaw or on, it doesn't matter what it is. If I think people will like it, or it's somehow related to people that live the lifestyle like we do, or self-sufficiency, I put the video out there.
Yep. Camping. You get a lot of good camping like tips and stuff too. Which are a lot of people, like you said, that you're trying to save money or something, you end up camping somewhere, and you got a lot of good stuff on that. But so you people may not know this, you're from Michigan, right?
I am, yep.
But you're going to reside in Georgia now. That's where you're heading right now. You leaped down there and made a move to Georgia.
Yeah, we bought a place down there as a cottage, like to spend winter. Because again, now I'm at the point where I double my workload in the spring, summer through October, and so then I can take basically middle of October through middle of April off and just hunt nonstop is my plan. And that's what I did last year. And we bought a place down in Georgia to go down there, and we loved it. And as soon as we got home, we thought, you know what, let's just let's just make it happen. So we put our house on the market. It sold in 2 days with multiple offers. So that was kind of cool, but scary at the same time. And now we have the place down there, but we can't leave Michigan until November. I'm a wedding photographer is one of the things I do, that and pressure washing. And the weddings, I'm already booked all the way through this year. So I got to stay here in Michigan. And then after my season is done this year, I'll book everything down in Georgia. I'll try and transfer and shoot down there and bring the pressure washing down there. So we're going to plan on being in Georgia full time starting in November.
You going to come up to Michigan and hunt still, or are you going to be done hunting in Michigan?
I probably won't come back to Michigan. I mean, I love Michigan, but it's not my favorite place to hunt. I do hunt, a few different states, and Michigan is by far the hardest. I've said it before, and people laugh at me, but after hunting Kansas and Missouri and Ohio and Illinois, all that stuff, I mean, a Michigan button buck is smarter than a 130-inch deer in Kansas, on both of them being on public land. I mean, it's unbelievable how jittery, a northern Michigan, public land deer is. It's they're wired. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Now you were in northern Michigan. Is that where you lived, or where did you do most of your hunting?
Up by Houghton Lake, between Houghton Lake and Grayling and Gaylord, around there. And it's kind of what it is it's a central hub. It's Deer Camp Central, we call it, because you got big cities like Detroit and Grand Rapids and Lansing, and all of them head north and merge and crash right into this area. And it's the first area you get to of massive amounts and miles of public land that's all broken up by oil wells and power lines and 2 tracks. And so it's very easy access everywhere. And there's people, they come up for camps. There's hundreds and hundreds of deer camps here every year. It's Deer Camp Central.
Yeah. Why Georgia? What made you go down there? I guess I've seen over the years you've been down there a lot, but was there a certain thing you like about Georgia?
I came down for a pig hunt about 4 years ago. I wanted to try public land pigs. I've killed a dozen or so pigs on ranches back in the 90s and early 2000s in like Tennessee and that kind of stuff, and South Ohio and the hills. And, so I did that, but I wanted to try public land. I heard Georgia was pretty good. So I went down there to the mountains in North Georgia, and I was down there for 2.5 days. And believe it or not, I actually got into pigs, and I had a pig come into me at like 3 yards facing at me. I didn't get a shot. He busted me drawing, but I was hooked. And so then I made 3 more trips down for like 3 days over the next 2 years to try it. And I just fell in love with being down here. And then we bought a camper. And last year we came down here 4 different times for a week at a time. And I straight up loved it. I killed 4 or 5 pigs last year on public land, and seen a ton of deer and loved it. And so then this time last year, we sold a camper, sold our boat, sold my bow fishing boat, sold every toy and everything we had, and we put the money down on a little cabin down here, which is what we're going to move into. So we bought that little house, and then it just keeps progressing. But I love it. I am where I live at. I am surrounded by. I have like 9 WMAs that are huge in size, and every one of them within an hour and a half of me. I got deer, in Georgia, I get 10 deer tags. I get unlimited hogs, 365 days a year of hog hunting. I get a bear tag, 3 turkey tags. I can apply for alligator tags. And then I got Alabama not far away with, where I can hunt deer in a rut all the way till mid-February. So there's a lot down here. And I got Tennessee and Kentucky and Virginia. There's a lot here. So for me, it's kind of like a hunting mecca here. I'm gonna put that light on. That's probably better for you.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, sun's going down on you.
Yeah, get dark now.
Yeah. I love living in the Midwest, but when I was down, I went to Georgia and South Carolina in February and hog hunted last year. And man, when I told my wife, I'm like, man, I could go down there in the wintertime. That's pretty fun. I wouldn't get anything done other than hog hunting, but that would be the plan if I would ever move down there, or winter down there, whatever you want to call hibernate down there.
Yeah, people think it's funny when I say it, but I'm not gonna lie. After spending these last couple of years, I'm not interested in hunting and sitting in a tree stand or sitting over a feeder. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not what it draws me. But I'll tell you what, honestly, I prefer pig hunting is overpowered deer hunt for me. It's more fun for me. I love that freedom, and it's a perfect mix. After spending all of October, November, and most of December sitting in a tree stand for almost all day sits a lot of the times, or in the woods all day moving stands 4 times a day. It is really nice to then spend January, February, March, and even into April where you're not in the stand and you're walking 5 to 12 miles a day and through there, and it's just adventure, and you're honing your stalking skills and getting in on these pigs, and like I said, it's like the perfect combination of to be able to get 6 months of straight hunting where 3 are all about deer and then 3 are all about pigs, and I love it.
Yeah, and something that's good about I'm obviously not I'm not an avid pig hunter, but where I would see the huge advantage of just like getting shots at animals, like you really can't teach that type of thing of actually shooting an animal, and that I think that's if nothing else, if a guy from the Midwest where you only kill a deer or 2 a year to get down there and just get some animals under your belt, that's where I would see it be really beneficial. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a blast, and I'd agree with you. It would rival deer hunting if it was more, I guess, in my area, but it was pretty fun.
There's something about pig hunting where it's like, you don't care if you miss, you don't care if you don't get one, and you just go out there and shoot whatever, where it's just kind of a blast to go out there and have a relaxing hunt where you're just going after crap, where the deer hunting is a little serious and stuff, I like pig hunting. I haven't really ventured to the south and gone after them. The only pigs I've ever shot were in a large preserve. So I'd really like to go out there and try that sometime. I know you did, Josh, last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were in Georgia, and we hunted public land for 2 days. No. Yeah, 2 days. A day and a half. We hunted an evening and then a full day. And we got into pigs both times. I never got one on public land. Well, then the guy I was down there with, his buddy called him. He's from South Carolina, which we were right on the border there. He's like, oh man, he's like, we got a problem at our lease or whatever it was, his family farm. I don't think it was a lease, a family farm. And he's like, it's bad down there. And he's like, well, you want us to go and try to kill some? And I said, I'm good with that. I had to buy a South Carolina license. And then something that's weird in South Carolina, I think I'm right on this, on public land, there has to be something else in season or something weird where I couldn't hunt public land down there. Is that right,
Yeah.
Jason? Is it something like that?
Yeah, you are correct. And then South Carolina and Mississippi have two very weird rules that really bum me out, because the rule is that during small game season, which is when most of us are hunting hogs, during small game season, you can use a bow, but you can, it says in the rule book, only bludgeon tips. You cannot have a broadhead in your quiver. So you cannot bow hunt them during small game in South Carolina.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to have a bow with broadheads.
Yeah.
On public land during that time of the
Seems
year.
like they don't take pig eradication seriously.
I agree. It's a very weird rule, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I was telling people about it, and I guess it's that way in Mississippi too. Cannot have a broadhead in there during small game season, which, so in South Carolina, you're really, the only time you can kill pigs is during deer season, for the most part, deer or turkey season.
Yeah. But we went down to that guy's farm and it was overran with hogs. I mean, it was a problem. He had some food plots and stuff in there, and they were just looked like they'd been tilled up from the hog sign. And it was, I mean, if you had a gun, I was using a longbow, but if you had a gun, I don't know how many we would have killed, but it'd been a bunch. There were just pockets of them everywhere, it seemed like. And the farmer was honestly pretty disappointed whenever I pulled up and had a longbow. He's like, he's using that. I'm like, yeah. He wanted me to shoot more than one, I think, but that's all right. It was fun. I got the invite to go back down there anytime. So
I saw the video. I saw the video of that hunt. It was fantastic. I mean, well done.
Yeah, thanks. It's it was, I don't know how to say it. It was easier than I thought it was going to be. Even on the public land, we got into him pretty quick. But I was with somebody that was knowledgeable about the area, so I don't know how I would have done if I'd have just went down there and started walking around. Probably not as well, obviously. But the one thing that was hard is a little hard to hit them. Sometimes they're not as they're not that big. I mean, some of them are just
and they never stand still. They're always moving.
Exactly.
Never stop moving.
Yep. And I don't know how many people have seen that video, but the guy I was with, he's never hunted with anybody with a traditional bow. And I got to I was at 25 yards, and he's like, all right, shoot him. I'm like, I'd like to get a little closer than this, and I got to 20 and he goes, all right, shoot him. I'm like, I think I can get a little closer, right? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And but I got into whatever it was, 15 yards and got a shot I missed. But anyway, that was
it was definitely a good hunt, though. I mean, I enjoyed the video, and and Dan, you nailed it perfectly when you said, I mean, when it comes to pigs, there's no antlers on them, and nobody's measuring the hoofs or any of that kind of stuff. So none of it matters. Nobody cares if you shot a 50-pound pig or you shot a 400-pound pig. Nobody cares. It's just about shooting the pigs. The meat is fantastic. And the adventure is incredible, but there is zero stress, and there's no, and it's active type hunting. You're going to go out there and you might run across gators, you might run across snakes. You never know what you're going to come into. You might have a chance to sneak up on bedded deer that are just chilling, that you just happen to catch in your binoculars, sneaking along there. But every single day is an adventure with zero pressure and zero stress and zero competition. There's nothing. It's just pure enjoyment out there. And you're right. It's a total different thing than that grind that we do deer hunting, where it's up every you pig hunt any time of the day. If I want to sleep in and head out there at 9, I got just as good odds if I got out there at 7. So there's none of that matters. So it is a definitely different grind than what we do during the deer season.
Yeah, it's a good time though. If you guys ever get a chance to go down there, I know I've seen some people in the chats talk about. That'd be a dream hunt to go down there. It wasn't in the chats; it was in the comments on some of the posts we put on Facebook. But that would be my dream to go down there. And it's like, just go down there. It's not expensive. It's not. You don't really. I don't know. It was fun. It was super cheap.
My dream is to go hunt a Kodiak, and that costs about 40 or 50.
yeah.
Starting. So pigs are pretty cheap and easy. And it doesn't have to be a dream. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We started to get them here in Southern Indiana, probably 6 or 8 years ago, and they got real. I don't know. They got pretty thick in certain areas, and now I don't even hear about them anymore. So I don't know if I know the DNR got on them pretty quick and started putting traps out and catching them all, and my boss actually had he had a bunch in my old boss. He had a bunch of them on his property, and they caught like 20 of them in a trap at one time. They got this gigantic like cage they put up, and they put a bunch of corn underneath it. And then he would show me on his phone that, hey, since it sets a like a trail camera off, and then he goes on his phone, he pushes a button, and the trap falls on them all. It's crazy. But so I think our DNR got rid of them pretty quickly, or tried to at least. I'm sure there's some. I just don't hear about them anymore. Now down in Kentucky where I hunt, there's some down there, but not like they were in South Carolina. There was not that many.
We had the same thing in Michigan, same thing up there. There was a time where they escaped from a lot of these hunting preserves up there, and they were breeding. As a matter of fact, I ran a bear bait. I want to say it was probably 20 years ago. I had pulled a Michigan permit for my area, Red Oak unit, and I had bear baits out there. And I had a decent sow pig that was coming into my bear bait 11 o'clock every night. I even called the DNR, showed them the pictures, and told them, I'll give up the bear bait if you guys want to go in there and take this pig out and eradicate it, and whatever you want to do. And they said, no, we can't do that. And I asked them, I said, well, can I shoot it? Well, you can, as long as it's during daylight and only during when you actually have the bear season. They wouldn't let me kill it. Even, the only season open was coyote. They wouldn't let me do it because I can't hunt coyote, couldn't hunt coyotes from a tree stand at the time. So I couldn't do anything about it. But other than, it was real popular then. You were hearing about people that were killing them on opening day of deer season up here. And then all of a sudden they disappeared. Now you don't ever hear about them. I don't ever hear anything about pigs here in Michigan. So it's just like you're talking about out with Indiana.
We had the same thing in Wisconsin. They caught somebody in Wisconsin that was transporting them up here and releasing them.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, somebody trying to start a whole new hunting stock.
Somebody likes pigs a little too much.
Yeah. What's Stephen Ernella, when he goes hunting pigs, he always asks the people down there, like in Texas, and like, because they're a pretty big problem down there too. It's like, if you could wave a wand and get rid of all of them, would you wave that wand? And all of them are like, probably not. They're too much fun to hunt, even though they're pretty destructive. I'm sure the farmers, if you ask the general farmers, that they'd probably definitely get rid of them if they could.
And off their leases too. They don't want them on, even down in Georgia where I'm at, when I tell people I'm pig hunting, they're like, you get up at 5 a.m. to go chase pigs. It's like, yeah. And I love it, and they're like, that's crazy. We shoot them on site anytime we cannot. We can't stand them. We want them off of because they rip up the food plots for these guys. And everybody in Georgia, if you're not on public land, you're hunting food plots.
That's where that farmer or that hunter was with me in South Carolina. He's like they're, and his food plots looked pretty rough with the pigs rooting stuff up. But it is what it is. Maybe we'll have to go down there one winter, Dan, when we have a free time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to definitely
you would
go
enjoy
down
it.
again.
Like I said, it's a beautiful place to be in the wintertime. The snakes aren't out, the gators aren't out, nothing's really out. It's the foliage is down. When you come down here, once the temperatures get warmed up, like in the spring, you have spiders here that can literally pull your head right off your shoulders. You got gators everywhere, snakes all over the place. Everything here wants to eat you, poke you, stab you, or make you itch and sting later on. And if it's not the ticks, it's the tiggers.
Time to hunt. It sounds fun.
It is. You just got to be a little slower going through the swamps here.
I don't like snakes. So
yeah, I don't like them either. But they're an adventure here. But here you'd have to go a little slower.
Along and have him walk in front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said Rick? Have Rick along?
Yeah, bring Rick along and have him walk in front. And we'll videotape him from 2 different angles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, he'd probably go. Maybe he was one of the ones that wanted to go pig hunting. So, Dan has to give him some time off from building stands and stuff. Shipping stands.
I must be paying him too much. 50 cents an hour, and all of a sudden he can afford to do all this extra hunting. So,
Jason, have you done much deer hunting down there yet?
I killed a doe down here this year over Christmas week. I was actually pig hunting, and it was kind of interesting because I was covered in sweat, head to toe. It was brutal. It was a pretty hot day, and I was stalking pigs or trying to find pigs, creeping along, and all of a sudden a doe popped out, and I was like, "Oh, look at this!" And I'm like, "I got 10 deer tags." So I started stalking with her and sneaking in there on dry leaves, and it took me an hour and a half to do it, but I got close enough, 18 yards, and I shot and dropped her. I perfect, double lung shot, quartering away. She ran like 25 yards and flipped over, and that was it. It was game over. So that was my first Georgia deer, but it was like, it was an opportunity type thing. It wasn't like I had studied the terrain and was planning for that and had them come by like we do when we're deer hunting. It was more just an opportunity I took advantage of.
Gotcha. So you haven't like put a stand up and,
nope, not yet.
Nothing like that. Oh, okay. We had a question. I don't know if it was 2 weeks ago, maybe, about a guy from I think he was from Mississippi, maybe. Don't quote me on that, but he was having problems where some of his deer hunting areas were getting really a lot of pressure from hogs, and he was wanting some recommendations on what to do whenever your hogs are overrunning your deer areas. We didn't really know what to tell him. We never hunted in hog infested areas, but sounds like you really haven't either.
But there's not much you can do. According to what I hear, your only option is to trap them or shoot them, because the hogs, they're not after the food plot. They're after the grubs and the worms that are under the food plot. And all the work that people do to make their food plots lush and produce, all of the stuff that's underneath that is what those pigs are after. And they're incredible. I mean, a group of 12 pigs could flip an acre in about an hour and a half, and completely uproot and turn it upside down and over. They're insane what they're capable of. And these people put a lot of work into those food plots, and then you have pigs come in and wreck it, and then the deer won't come.
Yeah. I think he was hunting public land. I think he was just trying to figure out where the deer go, or, we kind of suggested to him, like, hey,
if the deer went into the bedding area. Like he said, the bedding areas were overrun by the pigs. So where are the deer going? He said the same things that we look at for the deer, like the points that go down in the swamps and stuff. He said they all had pigs on them, so he didn't know where the deer went.
Well, I'm finding pigs and deer very close together in bedding. Now, I don't see them ever together up and around or rooting or going after acorns. I don't ever see them together at the same time. Not that I have a lot of experience yet, but when I am moving through there, I do jump a ton of deer doing exactly what we would expect them to do. They are on the points. They are on whatever the thickest cover is, right on a transition. They're not deep in it. But you'd be amazed, how they'll use water barriers just like they do up here in the Midwest, but the behavior of those deer is very similar. And I have jumped deer before and then ran into pigs, 50 yards later. So I do see them bedding in the same areas, or relevant too, like that. But deer down in there in Georgia are definitely using the terrain the same exact way they are up north.
Yeah, I guess that's what I kind of mentioned to him. Like, hey, these hogs, I don't think they are. They're not killing these deer or anything. I don't know if they view them as a threat or just that they're a nuisance to them. They're aggravating to them. I'm not sure, but it's not
they
like
share the same areas.
Yeah,
deer are deer wherever you go.
Yep.
Well said. 100% well said. A deer is a deer. And the terrain is everything. As you've pointed out, it's the number one thing you could take away from everything you always put out there is you hunt the terrain and you hunt you get the right wind and you hunt the terrain and the deer will be there. And it's no different in Georgia as it is in northern Michigan or the UP of Michigan or in Kansas or, anywhere that I've been. I've not seen it any different. Wherever you use the terrain because deer use the terrain, and they all use it the same way.
We're going to move into another segment called Breaking News. Dan posted a article about CWD. He posted it on Facebook just a little bit ago, but he posted it on the Hunting Beast forum probably, a few days ago, Dan?
Yeah.
Something like that. And I tried to read through it a little bit. I didn't understand all of it completely, but it sounds like there's a possibility that there's a disease that was in some sheep back in the 1700s called Scrapie, or is that
Scrapie.
right? Scrapie. That was, you essentially can't really tell the difference in that and CWD. Is that right?
Yeah, from what I got out of that article, the biologist was saying that the characteristics of Scrapie, which is a common disease with sheep, is the same as CWD, and he said that the USDA researchers checked into it and they couldn't find any difference between the two, and then they checked and deer are 100% susceptible to Scrapie. So the first ever found deer that had CWD was in a pen with sheep, and when the researcher found it, but they had never heard of Scrapie, and they deemed it a new disease as CWD. So what this researcher is saying is that all along CWD is really Scrapie, a disease that's been around for 300 years. So that's interesting news, but it isn't proven yet, and they need to do more testing to make sure. But I have always said over the years that I believe that CWD was never taken seriously until it was taken out of proportion by the Wisconsin DNR when Doyle was in office. Now, our DNR is ran by our governor, and when our governor ran the DNR, he was all about bringing the population of deer down at that time frame, and at any means, and he was fighting the hunters and the public. And CWD was his big excuse to bring the numbers down. So they really exaggerated CWD and blew it way out of proportion. And all the other states started taking it like it was religion and following suit. So the article's pretty interesting to me, but I'd like to see a little more proof that it is Scrapie.
Yeah, it's interesting because if that's the case, like it's been around for 300 years, you thought if it was going to, decimate the deer population, it would have done it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a biologist, but it's a cool article to read. Like, man, it's something that the CWD thing, it's like always like it's hard to figure out, put your thumb on what's going on with it. And it's just another way of looking at it, or another possibility of what could be happening.
CWD is a lot like politics. I think a lot of the people in the higher up of the DNR, I mean, don't want it to change. They're using it as a way to control populations and bypass hunters who normally regulate deer populations. So I think there's a lot of people that will stand in the way of this moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree. And CWD's been around for a long time. And, like here in Michigan, too, they made a rule that as soon as we got CWD ever was found here, they would shut down baiting, which Michigan is a huge baiting state. It has been since the 80s. People bait. That's, the attitude here is you can't kill a deer unless you put out a bait pile for it. It's how they do it, and have since the 80s. And when they said, though, when CWD would ever be found here, they would ban all baiting in the state. CWD was found here it's got to be about 10 years ago, and they banned baiting, and they banned it for 5 years. And then they brought it back because of hunter demand and because everybody's saying you can't kill a deer without baiting and you can't do any of this stuff. And so then they brought it back here. And then CWD was pretty quiet. You didn't hear much. And then it's now 2 years ago, it was found here again, pretty heavy in central Michigan. So they banned the baiting again. And now they give everybody 10 deer tags. Used to be where you had to apply, like especially in my area, you would have to apply for a doe tag, and your odds, they give out like 1,000 doe tags and 40,000 people would apply for that county. And so it was very low odds of drawing a public land doe tag. And then last year they decided to give everybody 10 deer tags anywhere they wanted to use them in the state. And they said that during muzzleloader, you can now use a center fire rifle. So they're, like you said, they're trying to wipe the deer out here. They're trying to reduce the numbers pretty drastically.
Right. I mean, when they started it by us, they actually said they were going to kill all the deer in southeastern Wisconsin, all of them, or the whole southern part of the state. And obviously they got a lot of kickback from that. But I remember there were pictures going around of them having huge mounds of dead deer in pits they were burying them in. All those pictures have been hidden now. You can't find them. But
right. Yeah, Biden's probably got them.
I'm pretty. They're on Hunter Biden's laptop probably.
Right, that's what. Yep. Sorry, I'm looking away. I'm trying to change lanes here. I'm
Oh, you're
driving
fine,
through
Jason.
Atlanta, and
Don't
I
wreck
gotta.
on camera here. I guess it'd be good content, but
Yeah,
There we go.
that'd go viral. I mean, maybe you should. I mean, you get some,
Yeah, there you get a lot of views then. Yeah.
I think I'm pretty lucky to live in Indiana. You guys have some governments that seem to favor the opposite side of the spectrum sometimes, and Indiana's pretty conservative or right wing, so we haven't had too much worry about CWD for the most part. You don't hear much about it, and where me and Jason's states touch each other, and me and Dan's almost do. So I don't know. You'd think if it was we would have had it down here too bad, but
they literally have it everywhere they check for it. If they do checking for CWD, they find it.
Yep.
Basically, it is everywhere. It's in the soil, so you can't kill CWD. It's here forever. So once those prions are created, they're always here. So if they leach into the soil, they're there forever. I mean, they've got places where they had deer farms, and the deer all got CWD, so they killed all the deer, bleached the soil, burnt the soil, left the enclosure enclosed for 10 years, killed all the vegetation and everything. And then they bring new deer in, and they immediately get CWD from the soil. You can't get rid of it. It's there forever. So if you move sod from one state to another, you just move CWD. If you move a load of gravel from one state to another, if there's CWD in that gravel, it's moved with the gravel. If a dead deer falls in the Mississippi River and floats down to Georgia or wherever down there, Mississippi, it brings CWD with it if it's in it. If a bald eagle eats on a dead deer and eats the prions and goes and craps in the next state, it's crapping CWD. It goes right through their digestive systems. It's in deer urine. So if you're buying deer urine that was created in a farm in Alabama, and that farm has CWD, it's transferred to wherever that deer urine is sold. And a lot of that stuff was hidden from the public because they didn't want the public to not buy the deer urine. They just wanted them to kill more deer, basically. In my opinion.
Yeah. It's crazy, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to try to keep track of all that. I don't know. Like you said, nothing will probably come of it just because of the politics of it, but be interesting to see where that article goes or if we ever hear anything about it again.
Right.
I think the CWD is more. I think the deer herds are more tolerant of it compared to like an EHD or something like that. Epidemic hemorrhaging disease and that kind of stuff. Which like that wiped out half of the deer herd in Montana. When that comes through, that's pretty devastating stuff. But I think you guys are both right. CWD's been here forever, and it always has been. It always will be. We just we don't know about it till it either comes up when somebody studies it for a reason or when they need an excuse to change something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Justin Tanner says, I have no idea. He's right. I don't know anything about it. I just thought it was an interesting article. Dan's definitely more educated on it than I am.
I studied it quite a bit.
Yeah, when it sounds like it hit home to you, though, it sounds like you guys they were giving you guys all kinds of buck tags.
At the time that they eradicated most of my herd, we didn't even have CWD in my entire county. And they came in, and I'm on the far end of the county. And because my county had joined a county that on the other end of that county had a couple cases, they lumped mine in. But really, I just had a high population. And we had really, really good deer hunting. The public land where I was hunting at the time when CWD came around here in the early 2000 area, the land that I'm hunting on public was similar to having a high price lease in Illinois or hunting Iowa. It was really good hunting. Now it's average at best. I mean, they really wiped the population down. So yeah, it hit home. But I studied it quite a bit. Really checked into biologist articles and stuff, talked to biologists, and really got some inside information. I was talking to biologists from the DNR and stuff who were telling me on the side that they didn't agree with any of it, but they're forced to go along with it or they lose their jobs because the governor was mandating it. And a lot of people don't see that. They're like, well, the DNR says we should do this. And the DNR says that. The people that work for the DNR are great people. I know most of the wardens in my area. I know the biologists. I talk to them regularly, and what they tell me on the side is different than what the DNR, is promoting, because a lot of it is political. It's actually ran by the party that's in office. That's why it got better when we had Scott Walker come into office, because he listened to the hunters. And then he brought in James Kroll, who was an accredited biologist. And James Kroll kind of saw the same things I see and said, you have to manage the deer herd, not CWD,
Yeah. It's interesting. It sounds like it's not too far off of like the COVID pandemic we went through just with the deer.
Yep, same thing. Politics.
Yeah. So Jason, I wanted to. It'd be a shame to get you on here and not talk about traditional bows for a little bit. And we're actually gotten a few questions about it. We'll go over in a little bit. But I was always curious, like guys like you, like what kept you from picking up a compound all these years? I guess whenever you first started hunting, did you start with a compound, or have you always just had a traditional bow?
1992, I killed my first deer. 93, actually. 93. I didn't own a bow. I had a bow like when I was 12 and stuff like that, but never really did much hunting or anything. But anyway, I was 19 years old in 1993, and I worked at a restaurant, a Fuddruckers restaurant, and they were getting together to go shoot shotguns. We went down there and shot some clays. I had an 870. And they at the same range, they were shooting compound bows. They had them there, and I was like, "Wow! I don't have to buy shells. I don't have to buy clays. I can just keep shooting arrows over and over." So in September of that year, I went to a Gibraltar Trade Center hunting show, and I bought a Golden Eagle compound. Set it all up with the overdraw, the whole deal. I shot it for all of September and got really good with it. And then opening day at deer season, I went up north. By where I live up in Holton Lake up there, but I went up there. I was living down by Detroit at the time. And I went out in the woods and I found a bunch of tracks on a motorcycle trail. And I thought, okay, well, there's a lot of deer that move through here. So I sat down there, and then I didn't see nothing. When I went back there the next morning, sat against a poplar tree, and I had 3 does come in at like 15 yards behind me, downwind of me. They stopped when they hit my wind. Well, I was sitting on my butt with my legs crossed and my bow laying next to me. And I looked over my shoulder and saw those deer. I had to roll my body over, stood up. When I stood up, I realized I forgot my bow down there on the ground. I had to bend down, grab my bow, pick it up, hook on my release, draw it back, get it anchored, get everything lined up, and then I shot her. She stood there the whole time and let me do all that. And so I thought, well, this hunting stuff is way too easy. So I was like, okay, so I've got a recurve a few months later, and then it took me 3 years before I could kill another deer. But I was hooked. And, the challenge of the recurve was just, the compound was amazing. And I love that Golden Eagle. And then right after it, I bought a Browning Ballistic Mirage, and the limbs cracked on me. It wouldn't tune right. I had all kinds of problems. 3 times I had to have Browning give me a new bow for it in a 4-month period. And by December of that same 1993, I was at Gander Mountain, and they had a recurve, Martin Mamba recurve hanging there. I shot a compound right-handed, but I'm left-handed, left-eye dominant. Well, I picked that recurve up and shot it. And I loved it, and I was just about to buy it. The guy behind the counter saw me writing my information down when I was going to buy that with my left hand. And he's like, "You're left-handed?" He said, "Let me check your eye." And he made sure. He said, like, "You're left eye dominant. Don't buy this one. You got to get a left-handed one. Trust me." And I said, "Okay." So we ordered it. I'll never forget it. I paid $205 for that Martin Mamba recurve. 1990 would have been like January 94. And then I just never looked back. I just had so much fun shooting it. I just never went back to a compound ever again.
It's kind of interesting because I'm exactly the opposite. I started out with recurve, and I was really good with it because I'd shoot all the time when I was young. I'd shoot everything. I would go out and I'd rabbit hunt, squirrel hunt. It was kind of just like hunting. Whatever came by got killed and ended up getting eaten. And that's the way I grew up. And that recurve, I was so accurate with it. But as I got older and started working and stuff and started not shooting as much, I started getting sloppy and I couldn't kill stuff on a regular basis. And then I went to a compound because it was easier. So it's kind of like the opposite. I progressed backwards from you.
Yeah, well, and you can tell too. I mean, see, I say this a lot, but as a traditional bow hunter, there's not a lot of us that are traditional guys, especially in the beginning, where we're worried about horns or we're worried about any of that kind of stuff, or even if we kill a deer, it's the adventure. But I mean, if you look at the title right there underneath your face on what it says there, that kind of describes you pretty well. And that comes with a series of priorities when you get in the woods. And traditional bow might not fit that for you, especially in that early times, when you're trying to make that all come together. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely harder, but it's fun for sure. It's a lot of
You're
fun.
kind of like the opposite, Josh. I look at you and it surprises me that you're so into traditional bow hunting and shooting stuff traditionally. Then all of a sudden you pull out some weird contraption that you're shooting.
Oh, that gearhead compound. I think you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a compound. It's just real tiny, but yeah, it's goofy looking for sure.
It looks like it was made out of Legos or something.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. No, yeah, it's goofy looking. I'm also a kind of guy that I'm. Sometimes I get stuff that's just different because I don't want to have the same thing everybody else has, or So I don't know. That company is it was a good shooting bow, and they're a small company, and I liked it. And what the heck, I'll buy one from them, instead of Matthews or Hoyt or whatever, But I'm gonna use one of those prime bows this year. I'm pretty excited about that. Along with I got a new. Steve made me a bow, Jason, and then South Cox from Stalker. I got one of his bows too. So.
Two very good bows. And the Prime's Michigan bow. Are they still made in Michigan? I know they started from Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah. And, I don't know a lot about them, but as far as the bows, but man, I watched the videos on those when they first started coming out with that dual cam setup and how it synchronizes. And man, I'll tell you what, pure brilliance to Prime. If I were shooting a compound today, it'd be a Prime bow in my hand.
Yeah, that's what I'm shooting.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We had them on. A few episodes ago, and they're really good guys. Interesting company too. So,
yep.
Yeah. Well, let me see here. We've been on for over an hour again. Let's do some Q&As. Sometimes these kind of can take a while. Thanks for all the questions, guys. As usual, there's a whole bunch of them and a whole bunch of chats, and I've tried to stay off the chat just so I don't get distracted and start laughing or something in the middle of everything. So, Dan, this is for you. Is there any designs or plans for offering premium shoulder straps for carrying the bee stand?
Yeah, it's in the thought process, but I've been so busy with the R&D on a new stand design that I haven't really gotten to it too far.
Yeah,
so I probably need to look at that a little closer because it's an easy fix. I know everybody wants the premium straps. I just figure like it's so light that just the black nylon ones are good. But I'm different than other people. I mean, everybody's different. For me, I'm more of a minimalist. I really like small. I know Mario likes the big padded stuff, and like that are
like frame pack
weight just right, yeah, and stuff like that. But I think the stand's so light that doesn't matter. But that's me. I would like to come somewhere in between and come up with a good padded back strap. That's in the works. I think we're still gonna, no matter what we do, we're gonna produce them and sell them with the regular straps. But we might produce a backpack strap that you can purchase for it as an add-on for a reasonable price. And I think the reason for that is because I don't want to have to up the price of the stand for guys that don't want it. For a guy, that just is okay with just the straps, or he wants a certain type, and he's going to throw out what he gets with it anyways.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have that be an upgrade.
Yeah, and I don't want to put words in your mouth too, but I know something else that's a struggle with that kind of stuff is getting like made in America things affordable is pretty hard to do.
And that is an interesting statement because our competitors are saying they're made in America and that the metal's all made in America and stuff, and you can't even buy all made in America metal. I checked into it. You can't certify it. These same people that are saying that, they're 100% made in America, they tell you their seats are stuck the boats overseas can't get over here. And you're like, I thought you made everything in America. And they're like, well, not the seats.
Yeah.
But, we're making our seats in America. We're making everything, even the bolts we're buying in America. I mean, it's hard to do, and it's expensive. It's really a struggle nowadays, and everything's going up in price, and it's so hard not to bring the price up for us too. It is. People don't realize how expensive manufacturing is right now.
I can give you a real world of that. I sell a flask on Amazon, little side business kind of thing I do. I'm gonna get out of his way, but I sell a flask on there. And when I was making it, I had it made my way. It's made out of 301 stainless or 304. It's the same thing as a Yeti tumblers made out of, same kind of high grade stainless steel. And I can get it made in China. I can have it made overseas and shipped here to me. And, made, packaged, everything done, shipped, and designed to my specs for $3.30 a piece. When I checked into having that same exact thing made here in the United States, checked with 5 different companies, all corners of the country, it would have been $20 to have one of them made here. So you look at the difference of that. $3.30 overseas, including shipping it to me overseas, by freight, versus, $20. I don't even sell them for $20. I sell them for $15, but it would have been $20 to have it made in the USA. So, there's a lot to be said for what that cost factor really is, for having it made here.
I'm building a building in the backyard, and I had a couple junk cars up on the hill. So I called up a junker and had him come over for them, just pick them up. So I says, what are you going to give me for them? He says, $1,000, $500 a piece. I'm like, well, okay. So he gives me $500 and I get the original titles out. Now these cars don't run or nothing. They're just rotted into the ground, right? The titles of those cars, they were both bought around 2000, both of them. One was Carol's, one was mine. And I paid $144.90 for one of them when I bought it, working, ran it for years. And the other one I paid $400 and some for. And I got $500 for scrap for each of them. They went up in price. That's what's happening for our economy right now.
You should have bought some. You should have bought some more of them.
Right.
And laid them around for a while. It's better than your savings account. Yeah, I went to the hardware store. It's been a few weeks ago now, maybe a month ago, and I needed a 2x4 for a little project I was doing, and I just said I just need a 2x4x8. Didn't even think about it, and I ended up getting 2 of them just in case, and they checked me out, and she's like, $22.47. I'm like, how much are they? She's like, yeah, they're whatever, $11 a piece right now. I'm like, gosh, I'm glad I'm not building a barn in my backyard.
Yep. Yeah,
Eric Jetski just putting that stairs for me. I mean, he was shocked, and he's a contractor. It was $600 worth of material.
Yep.
Just to put the stairs in and a little box over the top of it with a door on it. I mean, it was crazy.
Yep.
Robert Carter, he's a guy down here in Georgia I follow. He's a big time pig hunter. You guys may know him, but he's killed a lot of deer with a bow and pigs and stuff like that. And but he had a thing on his Facebook. I was laughing. It had a little piece of a 2x10, like a 4-foot long 2x10. It had a little notch cut out of it, and it was leaning there, and it says, I have wood left over from a project I did. We'll trade this for 1980s Corvette. Corvette must run.
Yeah, that's no kidding. All right, another question. This one's for Jason. This is from Tim. Tim from the Hunting Beast, or Nomadic Beast, as he's known for in the forum here. If you want to get into traditional archery, and Tim, you asked me this question. You don't trust my opinion, I guess. Are there any beginner bows you would recommend, like a Samkowiak Sage or Black Hunter?
I know people that have both, and both of them are fantastic. Now, in our house, we have 4 Samkowiak Sage bows. They were my kids' bows. My wife used one for bow fishing for a while. We got 4 of them, and they have been beat through the ringer. They have been left in hot cars in 100-degree temperatures while we were waiting to go out fishing. While we go eat and stuff. I mean, they have been through the ringer, and they still work 100% perfect. They draw well, they shoot well, they hold hold tiller well. I don't think you can go wrong with a Samick Sage. I love that bow. It's fantastic for the money. You can get extra limbs if you want to go to a new set of limbs, like from 40 to 45 or 50. It's like $70 for brand new limbs, and they're what do they call those, Josh? What's the I don't know this recurse, the ILF or IFL.
Yeah,
what are those?
they're not ILF, but that's what they're called. That's what you're
Okay,
talking
but
about.
they're you don't need to send a riser in. You can just
No,
order
they all
them.
fit. They fit. Yeah, the Samick Sage limbs fit the riser, so you can just order
Yeah.
new limbs for it.
Yeah, and I hear the Black Hunter is really good as well too. I've never shot one of those, but I hear really good things about that bow. And so, I mean, you can't beat them for the money. And you know, you're going to want to spare anyway eventually, or you're going to want a bow fishing bow or whatever you're going to do with it. So if you're just starting out, buy a Black Hunter or buy a Samick Sage or something like that, and go out and enjoy it. And if you love it, and you don't want to get another bow, shoot that bow the rest of your life. If you want to go, you want to treat yourself to something custom, or you want to do something different, buy or order that custom bow and do what you want, and then have that other one as a backup. Especially if it's like a Sage where they break down, you know, it's a perfect backup bow. You throw it right in your duffel bag.
Yeah, and the fact, I'm not saying you're going to do this, Tim, but the fact is, like, a lot of people will buy one and realize how difficult it is, and then to go back to the compound. So you hate, and it's like a custom bow, like a cheap one's $900 for a custom bow. You know, you could spend more than a compound on a custom recurve or longbow. So I think I recommended the Samick to Tim as well. That's a I never hunted or shot the Black Hunter. I know which one he's talking about, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard because people assume that a traditional bow's cheap because it's just a piece of wood, you know, but it's not.
Jason, do you ever do your own builds? Do you ever do your own builds? Build your own bow?
I made a few. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you did, Josh. I was wondering if Jason ever did.
Oh.
No, I have not. I make my own strings, my own arrows, that kind of stuff, but I've never tried to build my own bow.
Yep. It's there's a lot of good information on it now. There's Clay Hayes, who's, I don't know if anybody's familiar with him. He won the Alone TV show last year, but he has a really good book and DVD, shows you how to build one.
That guy's a maniac.
Yeah, I'd love to
watch him win that Alone. That was a pretty good episode.
Yeah,
the whole series.
I know him. I've talked to him before. I'd love to get him on here. I don't know if he would or not, but he's
a pretty good guy. I'll bet he would. He's like all of us. He gives, and everything. His whole world is about teaching. You know, he invites people out for his deer hunts out there, and you know, where he's at in Idaho and Utah. And I mean, he, like I said, he's as genuine as they come. And as you guys both know, that's what we try to surround ourselves with. And he fits that bill perfectly. I would be. He's probably real busy, but I would be shocked if he wouldn't come on.
Yep, I may reach out to him. He'd be cool. I mean, you could talk to that guy about a whole plethora of things. Well, I mean, he's a good hunter. Obviously, he's survived by himself on wherever they were at for 80 days or something, without, you know, any food or anything. You had to source all that yourself. So he'd be cool.
And he killed a deer. He killed a deer out there.
He killed a deer out there. And a whole bunch of trapping, I think, rabbits and fish and all kinds of stuff. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see someone you kind of knew or associated, you know, you've talked to him to win something like that.
Yeah, he was going to try and kill more deer. Well, he had to follow. They have to follow the local game laws, so he was only allowed to take one deer. And but he was pretty. You know, if he would have had the opportunity or legally could have, he would have been out there chasing more of them. But by law, he could only kill one deer on that trip.
Yeah. Well, that'd be frustrating, sitting there starving and not be able to kill something. But I saw someone ask about how expensive is it to make your own bow. I've done it both ways. I've actually cut down Osage trees. I got like probably 40 staves in my barn right now. But if you got to buy one,
you don't have to
right now.
Dry them?
Do what?
You don't have to kiln dry them?
No, you just let it. I got them drying in my barn for, I don't know, they got to dry for a few years.
You got to do a video on it. Might take you about 6 years to do it.
Yeah, it'd be a slow process. But to buy a stave, it's like $200, and then you're probably gonna break it your first time. So You might as well
And
buy
those
2
are
of them.
self bows. You're talking self bows too. I mean, if you want to make a laminated bow,
Yeah.
that's a whole. You got now. You don't just buy a jig for that. You got to custom make all your wood forms. You got to, there's a lot. I mean, I videotaped Steve making his, and I've been in his shop a bunch of times, and the custom setup. Every tool he had to make from scratch, custom somehow. So that's a huge whole endeavor to get. You don't just walk into Walmart and buy the stuff you need for that.
No, they have. I've made one with like a kit you could buy. I don't remember the cost of it though. It's pretty. It's a number of years ago. The bow ended up breaking. I didn't do something right and it broke eventually. But probably got something in between the laminates or something when I glued it, and it didn't work. But anyway, you can make it as cheap as you want as you go and cut down a tree and then start whittling on it with a knife. But anyway, let's go on to another question. I'm going to try to ask this question. It's one of those ones where I'm not 100% sure what the guy was wanting, but I'm going to go for it anyway. It's probably a good one for either one of you guys. So this guy has 3 deer trails going around the side of a hill, if you can imagine that. And they're all 30 yards apart. The wind blows across all 3 of them. How do I determine which trail to set up on, or do I put 1 trail downwind and 2 upwind? I'm imagining like a trail at the bottom, in the middle, and then 2/3 up or something like that.
It'll be interesting because me and Dan will have different attitudes based on the bows we shoot. So go ahead, Dan, tell them how you do it.
Well, was his question basically which one are the deer using? And
yeah, how does he determine which one to set up on?
Okay, so I believe that the deer are probably cruising the low trail in the mornings and evenings, and during the day they're probably cruising the upper trail. Or if they're bedding up towards the upper trail. So if you're talking rut time, the upper and middle trail are the ones I'd concentrate on during the day. And in the mornings, I'd probably be down low. It has to do with the thermals, I think, which ones they're using in the wind. I think they're traveling on those trails that are horizontal to the hill, based on the thermal current and the wind speed. And I would say that the 2 upper trails are probably the ones being used during the daytime the most, but at the thermal drop times, they're down lower.
But I think he wanted to know but I think he was getting at which trail would you set up on if they're 30 yards apart for all 3 trails. Would you set up above and the wind blows across them? Would you set up above? Would you set up below? Would you set up on the middle and let one be downwind? How would you set your stand?
I would, if I could. What I would probably do is I'd follow the hill until I found a spot where all the trails came together around a draw or something, and I'd hunt there. Personally, I generally I probably set up closer to how Jason does and what Jason thinks. I don't like shooting over 20 yards. Personally, I have a hard time killing deer at 20 yards. I don't have any business shooting over that. Although every now and then I get the balls to think I can. So I try not to put myself in a situation where I'd be tempted. So I try to use land features and terrain to force those trails to come together. So when I look at hillsides, I tend to look for a draw, a fallen tree that's on there that forces the deer to go to a point. And a lot of times that helps tremendously because it gets them out of the thermals too and puts them in a place where they're vulnerable. But that's how I would do it.
Yeah, and the micro transitions that are on there too. You'd be amazed what if you just got an open hillside to say it's got a lot of oak and stuff like that on there. But let's say that there's a string of cedars that run through there that are, pretty decent cedars, and they're spread out 30 yards apart. But just that little bit of green in that strip right there, that's where all that activity will be. Just like Dan said, it's a micro funnel inside of it. But your answer was the best you could give. If you can find a spot, if you got the time to find where those narrow down and you can catch all of them like that, I would agree with that completely. I do, again, like you, because it's shooting at close. For me, 20 yards max. That's my maximum distance. And so if I had 30 yards shooting and that wind is like that on a hillside, if I'm stuck and I'm going to have to set up right there, I'm probably setting directly on top of that middle trail. And I'll have one downwind of me and one upwind of me. And that's just, and I'll risk it and see what happens. And a lot of times they'll come right down that center one. And, either if they don't get by me, the does and stuff like that, they get real spooky and they'll like jump and hop and do stuff. But those bucks, when they get to be pretty decent, again, I'd have never killed anything like what Dan kills, but for these 2 and 3 year old and these decent, these deer that I'm killing, I see a lot of these bucks when they come in, when they bust my scent, if they hit my trail or anything like that, or they get real close to my stand and that wind swirls and hits them, they don't move right away. They don't take off like yearlings do or does do and get out of there. He stops and analyzes what he's going to do and what his next move is. And so even if he gets downwind of me and I can't shoot him before he hits that scent spot, when he does hit it, often there's a lot of times that I get that opportunity. So to not risk losing one of those trails, if I don't know which one they're on, which Dan had perfect sense on how to determine which one they'd be on, but I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking set up. I would have set up in the middle one and shot so I could shoot both ways.
Yep. Those were good answers. And I have no reason to say anything else, so we're going to go to the next one. All right. This is more for Jason. What does fresh sign from hogs look like aside from tracks and scat? What are the kinds of sign you look for that hogs would leave behind?
Well, hogs are going to be, they leave trails, but their trails are wider than deer trails because they're low to the ground, so they knock vegetation. I mean, your average hog belly is probably only 6 to 8 inches off the ground. So they're pummling stuff where, on a deer trail, you can almost, through grasses on a deer trail, you can almost see where their hoofs go left and right until that trail gets formed. But hogs will just mat it down like you drug a deer out of there. So their trails are much bigger and wider. The deer, where am I at on here?
You're good. I just switched you were going out of frame, so I switched you so we could see you. You're good.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to keep it in the light there, but their tracks, hog tracks are different than deer tracks. Usually they're wider. They're more, I showed it in a couple of my videos, my hog or how to hog hunt, but their tracks are much more squared off, where deer tracks are more heart shaped. As they kind of come in, when you look at a deer track, it looks like that deer is meant for speed and finesse and fluid movement, where hogs look more like it came off of a Sherman tank, and it's just designed, they look more goat-like. They're designed to just get through everything. So their tracks are completely different. It's when you see them next to each other, you know what you're looking for. Identifying hog tracks is a pretty easy thing to do compared to deer. And then the beds. Hogs bed similar to deer do sometimes, but when you find their nests, hogs don't bed like how does will bed, and they'll face different directions, and you'll have your perfect beans and things like that, and your buck is going to be up against a log and he's going to have the wind in his back and thick to back and wind coming from the back and visual out the front. Hogs actually lay like sardines most of the time. They want each other for the warmth, so you'll find them where they'll actually, hog beds will have 4, 5, 6, whatever hogs will usually be bedded, smashed up against each other and heads in different directions. So once you start knowing what you're looking for or seeing some of this stuff, it's pretty obvious the difference in the sign. But it can at first be confusing in the beginning because you don't know what's what. But once you pay attention to it, it makes a lot more sense to you. You'll see mud rubbings, hogs mud, or they rub on branches and sticks all the time after they wallow. So you'll see those are a dead giveaway. So it won't take you long to find a difference between the signs.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know much about that kind of stuff, so that's pretty cool. Someone asked if I've ever had a close call with rattlesnakes. Nope. We have them here. Never seen one. We apparently have them here. Never seen one, though. Not in Kentucky either. I'm planning on spending a little more time in Kentucky this year than I usually do, so maybe I'll see one. I hope not. You ever been charged by a pig, Jason?
I have. Yeah, 2 times in my life. Once was on a game preserve in Tennessee, And he, it was actually a pig that John shot from Cactus Saddle. He shot that pig, and I just happened to be in the exit route. Both times that I've been charged, it was not on purpose of a charge. It was me being in the way of where he wanted to go. But 2 times I had to use that tree swing technique where you basically throw your bow and you just kind of hop to the nearest tree and grab it and swing, because those pigs can't turn very sharp. So, and then he'll run right by you, and then he won't bother to turn around to come back for you. But one was on a preserve many years ago, and the other one was actually last day of the season on WMAs here, and I shot at a pig and missed it, and but it scared it enough that it turned, and it was only about a 18-yard shot, but I ended up getting a deflection on Palmetto, and but when it turned to come right out through where I was, and it was big and it wasn't stopping, and I had to basically jump out of the way, grab a tree, swing my legs up, and he ended up veering off about 3 yards before me, but it's got a little pucker factor to it when it happens.
Yeah. Andy Howes asked about if pigs can if they can see, smell, or hear better. They can't see, and they really don't hear very good because they're making so much freaking noise, but they can smell pretty good. Would you agree, Jason? They don't. Oh, yeah, I missed you.
Their nose is better than a white. Many times it's better. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good now. Go ahead.
Am I there now?
You are. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, a pig's nose is better than a whitetail's by quite a few times, I believe. Their nose is incredible. Kind of like on the same level as a black bear. Their eyes are really good too. Their ears not so good, but man, their eyes, they spot movement like you would not believe. The reason that people think that they don't see so well is because they're so low to the ground. Their eyes are down there. Their eyes are only a foot off the ground most of the time, so they're usually you're hidden in brush. But I'll tell you what, if you're in the open, they'll pick you out, and if you move and they see you're busted. They see pretty good, but you're right, their hearing is not well at all. You can crunch and you can almost run right up to them if they're not looking at you, and because they're making so much noise, you sound like another pig. They don't care.
Yeah, they constantly have their nose down and they're just doing this and making all kinds of racket around their heads. They don't hear very good. Okay, we're going to go over Dan, then go back to Jason. Dan, question on cattail points that are surrounded by deeper water. Will they bed on the points with the water as a good escape?
Depends on the water. They're not going to bed on a point that's out on a lake. They got to have good escape. Escape is number one. I'm not saying a deer will never bed in that situation, but I'm saying a big buck will choose a different spot over that. They have to have good escape. Good escape is an ingredient in bedding that they need. So water and brush, like say it's dogwood or cattails, they'll use that for escape every day. But they're not going to go across long periods of open water. They might run across a river, might run across a pond, but they're not going to go swim across the lake or run through shallow water for 100 yards in the open. They're not going to expose themselves.
All right, Jason, someone asked what kind of bow you shoot.
Mine are built by Steve Teray over at Northern Mist Longbows. He builds them for me. I shoot an ASL style bow, so it's what they call American semi longbow, or a hill style bow. So it's real old school. It's just a straight limb with a straight grip. It's basically like taking a broomstick and putting a string on it. But I love it, and it shoots so good, so forgiving, and I love it. But they're made by Steve Teray at Northern Mist Longbows.
Someone asked Jason about how often you get a pass through with your arrows with your higher FOC arrows on hogs.
On hogs, I'm going to say, if we talk about complete arrow pass through and popping out both sides, arrow stuck in the ground, I'm going to say so far in my limited of, my 10 public land hogs I've killed, with high FOC arrows, complete zip right through pass through. Out of 10, the 10 hogs I've killed, I think were 2 of them. Broadhead penetrating through both sides completely there, so that as he runs out, he pulls it out. But exit and entry holes, I'm going to say a total of 6, and then 4 of them would be one side hits only. But 2 of those were pigs laying on their side, and one I went into the spine or next to the spine and stuck it in the sternum, and the other one was quartering away and it went right in front of the back hip and stuck in the opposite shoulder. So I that's my only experience so far is 10 of them, and I would say that I had an exit wound on about half of them, basically, for the most part. The other ones, a couple of them, with the bone hits, I don't know what they would have been.
I was shockingly surprised at how big those hogs get down there. Like, we saw some giant ones.
Yeah.
And I shot a female, and when I did, she made some kind of holler noise, whatever. She squealed her when I shot her, and ran over there and died real quick. And we went and we were going to go get the pickup. And as we were walking back, a giant like male must have hurt her and was kind of running into her. And it had been hard to get an arrow to go all the way through that one. I think I was surprised at how big they were. And they told me, and I don't really know what they weigh, but the guy was like, yeah, they can get up to 300 pounds sometimes, like some great big ones.
And when you get into the boars, they got those shields on them, that are in stick at cartilage and stuff like that and build up. They can be pretty tough. But I know that's why a lot of people will go to a narrower head. I see all those pigs I told you about meat that I'm shooting. I shot with a 1.5 inch wide 2-blade broadhead as well too. So if I was shooting a 1 1/16 or 1 1/8, I'll probably get a little more penetration through there as well. So if you're running a lighter weight setup, I'm only shooting 57 pounds, and my draw length is barely longer than a crossbow. I only got 26-inch draw length. Being a short guy, so I don't have that big long power stroke that most people do shooting longer draws. So for me, if I'm pushing a 1.5 inch head through there, on most of those hits are passing through. Anybody shooting, a normal size head, 1 1/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/16, you're going to blow through. I'll bet you blow through most hogs you shoot.
That's a popular topic right now is FOC and all that. And I always I was shooting a recurve bow at the workshop we had a few weeks ago, and I don't know, I had like 250 grains up front, and people were like, whoa, that's crazy. I'm like, that's just how traditional archery is. It's just been like that forever. It's just what that's where the high FOC stuff came from for the most part. Anyway,
you were shooting.
Do what?
Wasn't even your bow. I thought that was your bow when I was watching you shoot, because I didn't see where you got it from, and you were just nailing that little like 1 inch circle. And,
it was pretty.
That bow up off his shelf. I was like, what?
I did shoot that bow really well. It was pretty close though. We weren't very far away, but
you should probably bought that and took it home.
I offered him. I asked him if he wanted to sell it. He said no, and he didn't want to sell it. Which I don't need another bow, but that one I shot well. So anyway, let me run through these real quick. There's one question I want to ask, but I can't. Okay, I'm going to try. I'm not sure. Some of his wording was a little bit confusing to me, but essentially he's asking if you bust a deer, the buck notices you, but just turns and leaves. That's one scenario. How would you set up? Would you, they're talking about, bumping a deer and then setting up on him right away. What's the best way of going about that?
So the buck just leaves?
Mm-hmm. He gives me a bunch of scenarios. And I'm someone to run through.
I'll go with just the buck just leaves.
Yep. He sees you, but he's nervous. He notices you. He notices you, but just turns and leaves.
There's 2 ways I would handle that. Number one, if I think there's a reason he would want to come back, I will set up downwind of where he was, basically. Or number two, I will try to figure out where he's going and cut him off. If I know an area really well, a lot of times I know where that buck's going to go to. But quite often, if it's a bedding scenario and you didn't spook him hard, if he thinks you're just passing through, he'll be back in 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour. So, but the thing is, when they do come back, they're going to come back in and swing downwind. Most of the time when I've gotten busted in that scenario, I haven't gotten far enough downwind. I find like the first transition downwind, like the first hard transition, they tend to walk along that, circle to the downwind side and smell to see if things are safe, and then come out and come back in if they're going to come back to the scenario. Maybe they only come back on a soft bump like that 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6 times. But in the hunting world with a big buck, that's pretty damn good odds. So I would go set up on him coming back, unless I had good intel on the area and I thought he was going someplace else. I'd go try to beat him to that spot.
Okay, what if he snorts and runs?
If he snorts and runs, I'd try to find out where he's going to go to. I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah, that's 2 years ago. I bumped a deer that was in the first scenario. I was walking in the hills, and he just was bedding on a little point and jumped up and kind of skirted off. And I got up in my stand. I wasn't nearly as thoughtful about it as what you were. I just kind of set up there where I jumped him, and I got up my stand. And I got my bow ready. And I looked over there, and there he was just standing by 70 yards from me. He bedded back down right there and just sat there the whole night. Never got up. Finally got dark, and but he didn't go very far at all and bedded back down. Just went over the ridge and bedded down.
Got any experiences on that, Jason?
I do. Very similar to what you're talking about. I think always go downwind. Anytime I bump a deer, if I bumped him out of where I want to be at, I'll move downwind. The only exception to that is if it's does that I'm bumping. If I bump bedded does somewhere and they're going to pop up out of there and go, if it's during the rut time, I'm going to set up right there as close as I can to that scent, because I got a feeling that if there's any bucks coming out of bedding that are going to start trailing those does, they'll come through there, almost right on her track like they do. So I would want to be within shooting range of where they were if I could. But otherwise, downwind is always the best. It might only be 30 yards or 50 yards, but somehow if they're coming back, they're going to, in my opinion, they're going to circle downwind to you.
Well, we've been on here for over an hour and a half now and kind of ran out of questions here. So I completely forgot about this portion of it. If you guys, sorry about not letting you guys call in. I just forgot to mention it and nobody sent me a message. So maybe nobody was going to call in this episode, but typically Jason will try to have people call in, but it slipped my mind. I was trying to do this new segment for everybody, and I forgot the coolest part of the whole thing was when people can call in, but next time I promise I won't forget that portion. Jason, thanks for getting on here. Dan, you got anything else to add? I'm going to let Jason pitch his stuff right here before we leave. But
no, I'd just like to say thanks to Jason coming on. It's nice to get some FaceTime with him. Don't see him too often.
I appreciate it. Yep. And again, I can't tell you enough, Dan, that stand. Love that stand. I used it every single day, every single second, every sit of this year. And not once did I hang that stand without a smile ear to ear. I love it. I can't wait to see what new ones you come out with. If they're, I don't know if I'm going to buy another one of the exact ones that I have, or I'm going to wait and see what else is coming. But I'll tell you what, that stand is incredible. You nailed it right out of the park. Well done.
Cool. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and we had a whole bunch of regulation questions in the comments. I didn't ask any of those guys. If we probably shouldn't be giving advice on the law here, so just look it up if you got questions. Anyway, Jason, where can people find you and see what you got going on?
Just anywhere you Google Traditional Bowhunting and Wilderness Podcast, it'll pop up. It'll take you to the YouTube, to the podcast, to the website. It's all anywhere you Google Traditional Bowhunting and Wilderness Podcast, everything I have will be right there for you.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Thanks for getting on. This was I think we had a record high number of people join at one time. So pretty cool. Yeah. I hope it keeps growing. It's fun. We're going to keep trying to get good guests on like Jason and others. And I'll see you guys next Thursday.